Here today to talk about the Farlows Flat project. It's adjacent to the Clarence River, which is behind me. We're on the southbound side of the Clarence River, where the intersections to McLean and Yamba depart from the Pacific Highway. It's a project that's using foam bitumen stabilisation, and it's the first time that we're using foam bitumen stabilisation from a machine blend that's on site, fully imported onto the project, and there's multiple layers of construction.
The process itself of bitumen foaming is to change around a product, an unmodified gravel, into a modified bounded product. The process commences with a well-graded product, as you can see in stockpiles to the far end. The aggregate itself then is placed into the KMA machine, in the aggregate feeder. From there, the product is then modified by the addition of both hydrated lime and bitumen. Hydrated lime allows for a stiffening agent, as well as neutralises the clay particles that may be in any sort of aggregate. The bitumen foaming process itself involves the injection of water into hot binder. Before the binder arrives on site, an additive is mixed into the binder at the refinery. From there, it goes through a traditional bitumen injection system, and at the end there, water is forced into the binder itself. The laws of thermodynamics will tell you that adding cold substance to hot substance leads to expansion. From that, obviously the product foams up, and that's when the aggregates and the hydrated lime is mixed in. And the idea of the expansion, of course, is that it will capture the fines and then close up. And therefore you'll have the binder distributed throughout the aggregate itself. That is then loaded onto trucks, sent out to site where a grader or a paver can lay that product to various depths, depending on obviously the aggregate size, largest aggregate size product that you have.
We've had 2 to 5 traffic controllers, and we've been able to coordinate between ourselves, and no issues at this stage.
Traffic management on this site has been quite difficult. At the start, we've had the initiation of the use of traffic lights. We found that wasn't a great success, so we switched to both traffic lights and traffic controllers. But we found it much easier to be able to manage just with traffic controllers. There's offloads and onload ramps. There's the construction of the T intersections, and then the overlay of the existing highway created lots of different issues for us, and we found that using anywhere between 2 and 5 traffic controllers, we only had queues of up to about 500 metres in length and no more than a 2-minute delay on the highway, with between 10 and 14,000 vehicles at this site. We've initiated 3 work areas on our site for plant and truck movements: a waiting area, work zone, and a departure area. It's controlled, all of them areas controlled by a site marshal who's identified with a pink jacket, and communication is for everybody on the site, and the site marshal allows the coordination of any people coming onto the site through any of them areas.
We are taking foam bitumen from our stockpile site at the Puck Mill onto the road. We were placing it at 600 tonne to start. Now we are placing it just on 1,000 tonne, just over 1,000 tonne a day.
Something that we've tried here is placing the foam bitumen immediately over the existing seal. We haven't ripped the existing seal at all, and just placed it and feathered it straight down, and it's holding on really well under traffic, and 2 or 3 days later it hasn't ravelled. To reduce the likelihood of rutting under traffic of the night time, the moisture content is 70% of optimum moisture. That's prior to adding the 3% bitumen.
Why can't I go with your wishful consent? It's the tribulations of the Grateful Dead.
On the Pacific Highway we've got about 10 to 14,000 vehicles a day, and one of the criteria was that we have 2 lanes open to traffic at the night time. So we were looking for a product, foam bitumen we thought would be it, is to go down and be able to be trafficked immediately that night and placed in subsequent layers over the next several days in raising the highway up to about 1.5 metres above the existing level. The roadworks here on the Pacific Highway is immediately adjacent to SEP 14 wetlands, and one of the risks is contamination of that. The foam bitumen has the benefit of not producing dust and washing away and wheel tracking down the highway. When we did the initial risk assessment for the project here, we identified hazards working around traffic and workers on foot around plant. So as a part of that and how we could reduce that risk is we identified that you need surveyors out amongst the plant to put levels on and bone the works. So we looked at what we could do to reduce that, and we came up with, if we used a total station control grader, we could reduce that risk and reduce the need for the workers on foot.
Testing a foam bitumen has proved an interesting exercise, as the material's no longer a natural gravel or a crushed gravel. It's not actually an asphalt. None of the test methods we currently use appear to be adequate for the job, so we may have to start looking at developing or changing our methods to suit the new material we're doing. Standard gravel test for remolds and densities are giving us results of 110, 112, and which is very high, and normally you would count them as unrealistic. But in this case, the Marshall testing we do things seems to support that theory. So at this stage it's just an experiment and we're still developing a new method.
Foam bitumen being a new product that we'd never used before, we were a little bit sceptical about how it was going to perform on the pavement. And having a contractor mix it in a pug mill, we found out a few different things that needs to happen. The gravel itself needs to be less than 5.5% moisture in content. We need to at least add a little bit of water progressively as it mixes with the bitumen and the lime through the pug mill, and it seems to give an even distribution with the gravel, much better if you do add that little bit of water. And then when you, to get it out on the road, you need not to put it into the truck out of the pug mill. It needs to be dropped onto a deck and then reloaded into the trucks. It gets another chance to mix, and then once it's dumped on the road, the opportunity for the grader to grade it across at an even mixture, it seems to perform quite well. The other thing that we've done is that we've first of all started with 250, 280 mil layers thickness, and it had a tendency to rut, and the moistures in it seemed to pump up to the top, and it did have a tendency to crack away at the top. It is performing much better at a 160 to 180 layer, definitely not over 200 mil. So the thickness of about a maximum of 200 mil is, it seems to be about the optimum, and if you can keep it a little bit lower than that, it performs quite well, and you get compaction, you get the traffic on it overnight, it doesn't rut, it doesn't pump the moisture out as much, and you end up with a very good surface to seal at the end of the day.
So the initial project was just the Harwood Farlows Flat project. The benefits were so obvious immediately that we decided to bring forward some other works in the vicinity. While the plant was on site, we ended up undertaking works at the Farlows Overbridge, Brooms Head Overbridge, and in total we ended up putting out about 50,000 tonnes of foam bitumen product. This really created, from a community perspective, an ongoing front, a moving, seamless sort of project, I guess, and it really saved us a lot of money with those future projects.
We had a project called Goodwood Street to Brooms Head Overbridge, which was not far from the Farlows Flat project, and based upon deflection survey at that project, we had an AC overlay of 175mm calculated versus a granular overlay of 265mm calculated, and basically we just split the difference between the two, and we came out at 220mm foam bitumen overlay, and that has worked well to date.
From the Pacific Highway program's point of view, we were trying to improve the reliability of the highway, and that in that sense we were looking to improve the flood immunity at Farlows Flat.
The Pacific Highway between Grafton and Iluka turn-off, there's still flooding there. The highway's closed in both directions.
Clarence River at McLean has peaked this morning at 3.1 metres, lower than expected, and below the top of the 3.3 metre levee.
Flood warnings are still in place for parts of the state's north coast, with the Williamson, Richmond and Macleay rivers due to peak later today. Jessica Tapp, ABC News, Grafton.
At the moment, Farlows Flat has only the two intersections underwater. The actual flat itself has been lifted enough to have water go off it 4 days earlier than what we've had in the past. We have had the highway opened in all other places except Farlows Flat, and this time it's gone off at the same time as all of the other low spots and low-lying areas north of Grafton. So it's able to be trafficked at least 4 days earlier than what it has done in the past, except for the intersections, which will probably be a couple of more days, and then everything should be fine.
Usually it takes 2 to 3 days to repair. At the moment it's going to take none. We can put the traffic back on. There's only minor scarring on the shoulders and on the batters, which we can repair in 2 to 3 weeks' time.
Performance has been excellent. Periods of wet weather, the seals handling it well, the pavement's immaculate. It really is standing up and proving its worth.
Foam bitumen was identified as one of the top technical achievements for the Pacific Highway program last year, and with another 155 kilometres of road to upgrade between Ballina and Coffs Harbour, there's probably a good opportunity to use it elsewhere along the highway in future.